Hey John, it's Eric. I've had maybe an hour to look at your data here and try to come up with some high accuracy conclusions. And here's what I found. And this is my typical coaching style. I'll do a bunch of review and try to break it down into manageable pieces that somebody can go out and execute. So it's ends up in an action item more than a theory. So here you go. First of all, we have two sessions here. You'll notice they're the exact same sessions. This is the one you loaded with all the channels and shared on Track Attack, and this is the one I loaded that has the longitudinal. So we got everything that we need here. First thing I'm going to do is since I've looked at this quite a bit, I would normally start and just look at the GPS speed trace with the 3 laps, but let's get right to the meat of it. Because I want you to I sincerely want you to do the best that you can. And if I do my job right and I'm good at this, I'm going to give you something and you're going to go implement it and you're going to say, dude, that worked. And that's my goal. My goal is to give you some value and find you some time. Okay, let's start rocking. So here's what I found so far. By the way, I'm going to try to make this video less than 10 minutes. I talk a lot, I apologize. And I'm going to be using this little cursor a lot. So anytime you see this cursor, stick your eyes there and I'll kind of tell you where to look to help understand. Okay, so here is what I learned. And again, our 3 laps on the 25s. So this is good stuff. Sometimes you look at this and you look at a theoretical and there's not a lot of opportunity there. Opportunity is in other places. I'll suggest to you for these laps, except for some fluky things, 2 of them were very consistent and on top of each other, but I don't think that's your issue. Here's what I think your issue is. We're going to look at the longitudinal traces right here, and I'm going to point out that right here on the track, right here, keep your eyes on the track map, and then keep your eyes over here. One of these you can break at 1G and the other one you can break at 1.3. You and I both know that that thing has awesome stoppers, and just remember 1G in the back of your head. We know when we're going into here, there's also about 1G. That's a big break zone. Let's keep driving down here and look down here and say 1G. Hey, wait a minute, dude. That ain't a 1G break zone. Because if that's true, what you did here on the front straight to slow down is the same thing you're having to do right here, and that is not a 1G break zone. That is really fast. So we're going to look in, and I do this in HPD3. You have that issue, just not as great as the others do, at least in this session. Here's what the data says. It's the thing that we teach the most. It's the skill that all of the HPD3 instructors have very, very well, and that is the ability to teach somebody to get off the brakes. That's one of the, there's 2 criteria for graduating 3. Demonstrating consistently the ability to get off the brakes in high entry roll speed. And we'll talk about what that looks like specifically. And the second thing is got to be very comfortable, close proximity, high speed traffic. And you got to do that 5 times. So here we go. So we teach a lot of this. This is right up my alley. I like this. As we come in, we're braking to about 90, 89 miles an hour, right? That's the same speed as, look over here on the track map, please. That's the same speed as right here. And you're comfortable right there on the track, but for some reason, you're not comfortable right here above 90, which is why you're braking to 90. Why do we think we're over braking? Well, luckily you have the throttle position for your best lap. And for your best lap, you are able to add throttle. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to go down here, and I know the GPSs are off a little bit. We're going to go down a little bit and look at that spot specifically. Right here, where I'm suggesting to you that you're over braking. And the reason why I say that is Do you see, even though we're off right here, right? Even though we're off right here, that curbing is in the right location. Here is where, please look at the track, please look at the map. I'll get bigger here. You're coming in here and you're braking right here a lot. To here, you're braking going in. And the funny thing is, look what your throttle is right here. You're having the ability, your car has the ability to go to full throttle on its way to full throttle for apex. That is an indicator that you have overbroke, because if we do this right, we are entering on the edge of lateral grip, but we're not. We're able to give throttle. We can't do both. So we're leaving lateral grip on the table and we're adding throttle. Why are we adding throttle? Because we overslowed back here. So chances are, if that's a tendency one place that I'm seeing right now, I'm not even going to look at your data. I'm just going to go see if there are other places like this that support my theory that you're overbraking. This is very, very typical. Audibly, you will be able to hear this right here. You should be able to hear that when you're coming down the track and you go to brakes, your loud ass RX-8, if you hear throttle before the apex, you have overslowed the car. And that is something that you should mention in class, because it's true and we teach it in 3. And that's how you can get audible people to pick up on that. If this was you, you'd be able to hear that your throttle is picking up before that, which says we're not using all the lateral grip, right, coming in. And in this case, it's a sustained 1G. Over here, it's 1.3. Down here, it's 1.2 something. There's lateral grip in that car, unless your car feels uncomfortable. But what it does say is that you have the ability to go back to throttle. In fact, you go back to throttle so much, you stay on throttle till the braking zone. And if we're really hauling the mail through here, you could barely go back to throttle because you were going that fast. And when you did go back to throttle, you only would give a little bit because the car's really flying in there. So I'm not even going to look at this, to be honest with you. And I'm not even going to be looking at that, because the attributes of this was a high-speed scenario, right? This is high speed. We're going to go to right to the other high speed. Because if this is the issue, this is what we should work on. There's typically big gains in overbraking into high-speed scenarios. Releasing off that brake, braking less, is free time, because you've already spent the energy. The car's already going that fast. Brake, you can either choose to break a lot of it off or less of it off. It's not like you've overslowed the car and you are dependent upon throttle and you're pushing on the throttle and say, come on, car! Car only goes as fast as it goes. But for braking, you have all that energy. So we're going to look right in here. We're going to look right in here and come down through here. And we're able, right here in our throttle, to be mashed to here. We're not on the map yet. We're not on the map yet. So full throttle, take a look at the map for a second. Full throttle to there, right? And then we lift. There's the throttle. We lift. We brake, and we brake a lot. There's that fucking 1G thing again. Super late. You should be like 5 more car lengths in there before you even barely touch the brakes. And look at that. We go back to throttle on entry. Right? We are absolute mash, full throttle and empty. I'm going to look one more place right here. Again, because we've already got all that stuff built up. We can look down here in this as well. But I think we're going to be focusing on 3 areas. And that is you're going to find a second and a second, and that is right here, and right here, and it's all three the same concept, which is we're going to brake less, and we're going to really come off the brakes lightly, and you're going to dance that car in and go to 50% throttle instead of 100. Okay, and you'll be adding that 50% and holding it through apex. That makes sense? Okay, so last place we're going to look was down here, right? Because that is the same scenario. And I'll suggest to you that corner for the locals is fast as shit, and that nobody goes off right there, and that everything you bring to the table, as long as you don't break it off, you carry it all the way down here. And there's another 2 or even 3 tenths. No shit. You owe me a fucking beer for this fag. Okay. So let's take a look at that. Again, we're going back to, I'm going to zoom in on this one. And yeah, I know this doesn't sit near perfectly, but it's close enough relative to the apex. So here we come. Here's where we brake. Looks like we're braking in a straight line. Here's where we brake before turn in, and we go back to throttle before apex. My hypothesis was correct. Does this make sense? Call me if it doesn't, because I don't want to take any more time. I'm going to load this to YouTube, and bring your data down there and be ready to give me data. I'm offering this to Nick as well, not because I love him more than you. I love you both, but I want to see you fucking be the best drivers that you can be, which is why I'm doing this. I'm trying to do it for as many people in our region as possible. So call me if you got any questions. I'll be up late tonight, and I'll see you Friday night. Later.